This is Governor Bobber. Good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
It is a very busy Friday. Roe v. Wade is gone. Concealed carry is okay now in Maryland and New York. Wow. I don't think we could have had anything better than if it was scripted, frankly.
Yeah, we knew it was coming, right? The gun decision, I hadn't really been paying any attention to the concealed carry thing as much, but this has been the 1-2 punch for the liberals. They're reeling the last 2 days. The New York concealed carry law gets struck down by the Supreme Court. Justice Alito issues a scathing decision, and liberals are up in arms. Now, just like a lot of things, there are things that they can do to remedy this. And the Democrats are like, oh no, this is going to cost people's lives, blah 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 blah. And as they go through,
everything is good. Yeah, it's funny they say everything is going to cost lives, except when it's when it comes to abortion, they don't count those as lives being lost. But
right, that's exactly right. It's just that you allow people to carry a concealed weapon to protect themselves, and Democrats are all, well, this is you're harming people. It's going to cost people lives, but Roe v. Wade in essence is dead, and the Democrats are like, they don't consider all those aborted babies lost lives, right?
No, they don't. I tell you, the Democrats, if you let them have their ways, they would say, "Oh, abortion to the age of 16." They really are very, very so out of touch. And I tell you, the Democrat Party is they are like, remember when in 2000 and I said 1992, they said George H.W. Bush was out of touch, because he didn't know what a scanner was at the J.C. Penney in Frederick, But God news, these guys are at that point where they are they are like out of touch. They don't. There's no empathy on their part about, say, how do they, about families struggling for gas and so on, finding food, baby formula, and stuff like that. All that's missing, and they really don't see those things as problems at all. It's not a problem for them.
Yeah, no, it really isn't. We knew this decision was coming. After the leak, what was it, over a month ago, a couple of months ago, we knew that this decision was coming, though we weren't sure exactly how it was going to read because it was a draft document that was leaked. But it comes out to be kind of the 6-3 decision, and which is good. I'm glad it wasn't 5-4 officially, but 6-3. And I love what Justice Thomas is that, it's almost like he's decided to flex a little bit. And he said, maybe the court should really look at, gay marriage, same sex, sex, contraception, some other things that have made it in the last few years. Now, liberals are only going that adds fuel to the fire for the liberals. They're just kind of like that makes them more incensed. You have to remember in all of this too is that you need a case in order to overturn any of those things anyway. And to be honest, I'm amazed that this Mississippi case got as far as it did in a lot of ways. I didn't think that we were going to get there as quickly as we did. Roe v. Wade, 1973. There'd been a lot of attempts in our lifetime, Dwight, to try to find a way to strike this down, and nothing had worked. And yet now they got this case, and it effectively, it's not Roe v. Wade. It is another case, right? But it basically has the imprimatur of Roe v. Wade, and basically takes away those protections. Whereas the Democrats say the constitutional right for a woman to choose.
It's funny how the Democrats find the Constitution when it's convenient for them. By the way, liberals, as Sean Hannity would say, don't let your hearts be troubled. states like Maryland, New York, California, you can still have abortion on demand. If you don't like the abortion rules in your state, move to a northeast state or California, frankly. Uh, it's kind of it's like don't expect any sympathy from us on the right, frankly.
Yeah,
You go.
look, you're right. I mean, the thing is that the liberals, their attitude is that it should be the same in all 50 states for this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But part of the argument that we've had for the last 49 years is that the federal government should stay out of this. Now, if the states, we're believers in states' rights, so let the states decide. You and I don't agree with the states that that allow abortion, but they made that decision. They voted on it, whatever. They passed that. They did that, and that's fine, and that gives people an option. So go there and move there. Our old friend Leslie Carbone, I haven't seen her post on Facebook forever, or at least it doesn't pop up in my feed. But today she was like, if you don't want an abortion, don't have one, don't get one. And Leslie's conservative, but she is kind of the feminist conservative type of thing. She's always been very strong on the women's side for things. But she comes down on this and says, hey, look, and this is the thing. I mean, the Washington Post ran this article the other day about this girl who's like 18, I guess, and she had these, here's the thing that gets me. She had these grand dreams of going to real estate school, and doing all these things in her career. But then she got pregnant and had twins. Okay. And because of the Texas law, she couldn't have an abortion. Right. So she got caught in this thing. And so, so the idea here is that this poor girl, because of this restrictive abortion law in Texas, couldn't abort her babies. And now her career, her dreams have been deferred, if not dead. On the other hand, she says, she loves those children and can't imagine anything else, right? So but the idea for the liberal media is to say, look at these people, these poor girls, these poor women. They have to sacrifice so much because they couldn't have an abortion. Well, one thing is that they made a decision to have unprotected sex in 9% of these cases. So they already made a decision that the odds were that there was a chance that they were going to get pregnant, right? Yep. So you're making this whole thing about making an abortion free, safe, legal, and stuff like that. Also, there's a moral equation in there. People are, to me, they're being reckless with their decisions as a result. Like, oh yeah, I can go in and have unprotected sex because if I get pregnant, I can just go and have an abortion, easy peasy. No concern about human life.
That's true, and that is the biggest thing that they don't seem to understand. It's really, here's the thing. Mark Montini once made a point. I guess I'm not sure if it was a CPAC conference or Christian Coalition conference. Mark Montini, a blast from the past.
I don't remember. I don't know if I've heard that name in 2 decades or more.
I know, but he made a great comment. And he goes, look, the choice is made 9 months earlier. If you want to be irresponsible and reckless, well, you reap what you sow, as he put it. I mean, that's a little cold and callous, but that's
But that's right. I mean, you have a choice. You know exactly what the ramifications are. If you have unprotected sex, you have increased exponentially the chance that you will have a baby. But if you give them a free abortion or the option to have an abortion, then that can lead to some pretty reckless behavior where people are just like, they find using a condom or any kind of contraception kind of a bother, and they just want to have sex. Well, there are consequences to your decisions. There are consequences to the decisions you make, and you're giving these people like, well, then there are no consequences, right, for that.
Exactly. It's like if you recall back when helmet laws came into effect. I'm a big believer in seatbelts as well as wearing a helmet. I don't think there's any reason why people should not be why people shouldn't be wearing a helmet. Okay, it's all right. It makes sense to do. Okay, but I also see the other side, which is kind of the more libertarian arguments, like and I'm like, that's fine if you ride your motorcycle without a helmet and you smash your brains in. Don't come to Johnny Taxpayer to pay for your for your years in rehab or pay your hospital bills. Be prepared to pay the consequences. I mean, everyone talks about their rights. Nobody talks about responsibilities. That also goes hand in hand with rights. It's not just, responsibility. It's rights and responsibilities, not just, I mean, just like you can't scream fire in a crowded movie theater, you can't expect, you can't have it both ways. Like, I don't want to wear a seatbelt, or I don't want to drive the speed limit. It's like, if I'm driving over the speed limit and I get pulled over, I'll pay the ticket. I won't like it, but I'll pay the ticket. Uh, same way. Same way. If you're engaging in risky behavior, you're gonna. If a job becomes from that, it's you may not like it, but you got to accept the responsibility and kind of like paying the ticket. You got to take care of.
Right. Well, yeah.
And,
On seatbelts and helmets. I mean, I wasn't crazy about the mandated, type of thing like that. I just kind of hate this layer upon all the rules and
Yeah.
regulations. On the other hand, I think that it has been proven that like seatbelts, they save more lives, right? So is that not worth something? That is a greater good for me, is to do that. It's now very natural for most of us to go ahead and buckle our seatbelt. It's when it first started, it was kind of an inconvenience, and you kind of felt the government was forcing you to do it. Now it's kind of a natural thing, because you're like, yes, I don't. The drivers, I think, have gotten crazier and crazier. So I do want that extra protection.
Yeah.
If you're on a motorcycle, I would want to feel the same way, because there's all kinds of things. I mean, wearing a motorcycle helmet is not necessarily going to protect you from dying, because there will be, in a motorcycle, you're in an unprotected vehicle anyway, right? I mean, you
Exactly.
don't have anything around you. You slide off a road or whatever, in another car or whatever. I mean, and you go flying in the air, and chances are you're going to die, and the helmet's not going to do a lot for you there. But in other impact collisions, chances are that, yes, it will soften the blow. It will probably help you and save you from death. You may get an injury, but you'll have lesser an injury as a result of that. I mean, look, what about the vaccine, right? The same people, who talk about we want the right to choose what to do with our own bodies, also tend to be the same people who say you must have the vaccine. Well, that's you and I are both vaccinated. We made that decision to get vaccinated.
It's our choice,
But I do not disparage those that chose not to get a vaccine.
Exactly.
They make that choice. Now, inherent with not getting vaccinated is also the risk of getting COVID and having some severe reaction to it, even potential death. But they make that decision. They have the right to make that decision. And that should not be forced upon them. But
Absolutely.
But the pro-aborts are the same type of people who say you've got to do this. This is the government, because it's like the government knows best. The government will never lead you astray.
Something that I tell you, it is scary. If anybody thinks the government knows best, is on crack. The government knows best. Let's see some of the things the government's done, given us some of the gems they've given us. The bridge to nowhere. They've given us, they decide, they do research into things like Belgium endives. I mean, honestly, really, they know best? Is that really the best use of your taxpayer dollar, researching Belgium endives? I don't think so. I know it's a vegetable, but I mean, what are you getting out of the research there? I don't see there's a big clamoring for people. There's no shortage of Belgium endives at the supermarket. Well, maybe now there is because of Biden. But I mean, you can always buy whatever you want. It's not like you need to do some changes onto it so you get like a larger crop of Belgium endives, or it's like that really doesn't do anything. It's like or the bridge to nowhere, or years and years ago. I mean, people were putting in things in the federal budget, like people were like slipping in their paving of their driveways through, whether it be a state budget or federal budget or local budget. I heard stories about people were actually doing that. They were slipping in, like there's a particular council member who lives in near where our friend Kevin used to live. down by over in the Four Corners area where there's a particular street there that gets resurfaced every year because a councilman lives there. You know, it's one of those things like, it's just graft and corruption. That is the way. That is the government these days. You know,
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I grew up. Kind of, with the general notion that it's the government, so you should trust them, right? As I grew into adult, you have to have a healthy dose of skepticism, because once you start to see just the bureaucracy within government. I mean, you talk about these, look at how many omnibus spending bills and budgets we've had in our history. And if you actually go through the document, you just see an incredible amount of waste. There's so much pork barrel stuff that goes on, and both parties do it. Okay. I mean, the Republicans cannot be absolved, but the Republicans generally have been a little more fiscally responsible than the Democrats. But how do you have faith in a government that it just keeps stuffing all these things into the budgets, for the benefit of this congressman and his district and just that people at the expense of others? It's not treated equally.
And the way they do these things, it's like, the government is not infallible. However, the left seems to think the government, when they're running it, they think they're infallible. And here's the thing. I just got a message from our friend Eric, was telling me in Fairfax at 7:00 today, they've started their night of rage, and these are the same people that went out and burned limos when President Trump got elected. These are the same people that were out, protesting the summer of 2020. There's a reason why businesses were boarding up, because businesses were boarding up because they thought that because of if Biden lost, they'd be rioting in the streets. Republicans really don't riot in the streets. We do not do that. We don't even protest. We don't even counter protest. We go about our lives, and we just don't want people telling us what to do.
I think the exception to that rule was probably January 6th.
Yes,
That got out of hand, but that was a bunch. That's when you get to kind of the crazies that get involved.
Hey, Don, Eric says hello.
Hello, Eric. But but that's the thing. I mean, if you look back, especially the last few years of major protests, they have emanated from the liberal left, from the far left type of thing like this. Yep. Plus, there's a video of AOC out there. She's at the Supreme Court, and some woman is saying something, and then she throws the microphone over to AOC, who repeats it. And part of that is like, take to the streets. Wait a minute. We've got a sitting U.S. Congresswoman saying, take to the streets. Excuse me?
And this is the same sitting Congresswoman who has blocked security for Supreme Court justices and their family. And she went around boasting how she's the one that's her claim to fame. I'm making it safe for assassins to kill our Supreme Court justices. And I really think this needs to be done. I mean, let me tell you, is Joe Biden going to go on television tonight and tell his lefties to stand down when they start burning the cities down? I don't think he will.
Well, I mean, he did come out and say that there should not be intimidation, but he's also called the decision. What was it? A judgment in error or something like that. An error in judgment type of thing. So he's already come out and had his say on the decision. I don't see the left is going to protest. They're going to ignore.
I mean, here let me think. Okay, the last decision that conservatives were upset about was Obamacare, right? Justice Roberts voted in the majority, and I didn't see any Republicans running to the streets and calling for a night of outrage and burning things down. It's insane. What they were, nobody was going around telling people, "Hey, do this, do that." But they've, we did not, riot. Like I said, we just don't do that. That's just not in us to do that. We don't riot. I mean, here's the thing: Joe Biden and the Democrats. The imagine if they had half of this energy they put for border security. There is a Democrat I met on the campaign trail who tells me, I voted for Trump twice. You know why I voted for Trump twice? He goes, I don't think the Democrats can handle the border crisis. You know, and as he said, the Democrats and Joe Biden, because, you know, he's right, they can't. And this person is a Democrat who says he's never voted Republican until 2016, you know, and that got him to vote for Larry Hogan in 18, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Obamacare. I mean, what happened? What did the conservatives, Republicans, libertarians do as a result of that? They all that kind of pent up anger between that and a lot of other things, they turned that into the Tea Party movement, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't do violent protests. They did these things that basically kind of shook up the political establishment.
Yeah.
Got
exactly.
Took over Congress, got all these people elected. And, it was really positive energy by saying, we're tired of this, and so they did this. They didn't burn down things. They didn't loot things. You don't have fire bombs going on in our cities. You just had people coming together for this tremendous movement, that was, just put the Republicans into power, and then you can change things that way. But the liberal, these leftists, they think that the demonstrations and all this is the way to go. And Democrat politicians, they egg them on. They don't come out. They don't go out there to stop them.
And he's like, "Hey, lefties, we are a democracy, not a mobocracy," And they want to turn everything into. I mean, I am glad none of our justices flipped after the intimidation they had to go through for months.
Right. That's a great point.
Who leaked it? Why is there no probe by the DOJ into finding out what the leak is? I remember when President Bush was president, they were like whining all day long about who leaked the Plame dossier. Was it? Yeah, Valerie Plame and her husband, who basically outed themselves, by the way, in a Vanity Fair article. Where's the wish hunt? I mean, where's the special hearings they're doing on Capitol Hill for who leaked? And actually, if I had to guess, I bet the leaker might be Sonia Sotomayor, a wise Latina, or somebody in her office. She is the most liberal of the justices. I mean, or Cheryl Kagan's office. Honestly, it's one of those two are suspects number 1 and 2.
It could be a clerk in one of those justices' chambers or something like that, thinking that they could alter the decision. But the thing is that the draft, even though that's not the final decision, it's the near final decision. So
yes,
it would have been astounding had the decision today been anything really less than what it was, based on the draft. So, intimidation tactics, it didn't work. If we need that security law for the justices, because you can see the mobocracy is taking full effect. I mean, the whining, the crying, all the Sturm and Drang that's coming out of the liberals. You knew this was coming. I mean, you've had years, okay? So, elections have consequences. You want to go back to the other way. I mean, you get people who says, well, we've gone back 100 years in time and stuff like that.
We have not gone back. We've only gone back 49 years.
And all we did.
Got news for you. The problem, basically, the issues have gone to the states. You can buy one of those electric cars that Joe Biden wants everyone to buy, and you can drive to a state where you can get an abortion. It's not. We're not Ireland. That Ireland, had the ideal solution, but abortion was banned altogether.
Look, there are a lot of companies that had already announced, even back when the leak is that they would pay your travel expenses to go and have an abortion, in essence, right?
Yep.
Which is like, okay, that's their right as a corporation to do that. But it's a stupid decision.
And as you know, like over in Old Georgetown, and next to the Wildwood Shopping Center, there's an abortion clinic that's over there. I was driving by, was it last weekend? Where you have all these protesters that are standing out there, keep abortion safe and legal. And I'm thinking, like, and you know me, I like to say a few words. I go, don't you? I go, remember when you guys were for safe, legal, and rare? Now you're for safe, legal, as often as possible. And that's really how the left behaves. I mean, the left is they don't wanna the new these are the new Democrats that are basically out and out devout communists. Let's just call them what they are. I mean, the days of Scoop Jackson, Pat Moynihan, they're gone. Those Sam Nunn, those Democrats are gone. Yeah, even Bill Clinton's too right wing for the today's Democrat Party, frankly.
Yeah.
They
No, I mean, it has tilted far left, and Biden has done nothing to stop it because he actually welcomed them, and he actually listened to them and said, okay, my environmental policies will be there, which has led to a lot of current pain for most of us.
Oh, we've got a question. Eric is just IMing me questions. Let's see. I'm sure they'd love that too. I mean, establishment tech farm. Oh, it's about the establishment and the tech giants and pharma mortgage giants and so on. Hold on. Oh, let me read the whole question. Okay. Do either of us think that the major news media giants will be held accountable for all the garbage they tell on the air today? I don't think they will. I mean, Jeffrey Toobin was very angry today. I have not caught what The View has been saying, today, but I'm willing to bet Joy Behar and company have been throwing out some real gems today.
Yeah, look, I mean, they're protected. I mean, the First Amendment gives them the right to say a lot of things. That's why there were organizations like Accuracy Media, Media Research Center, organizations that are trying to keep them balanced and things like that, though. Unfortunately, Accuracy Media has seemed to abandon the mainstream news media and has been decided that the media now consists of Vox, Vice, BuzzFeed, whatever, things that that I don't know who in the heck actually reads that has any understanding of the news media, but be it as it may.
Well, it sounds like AIM's got a crisis in leadership over there. Which may only just get a little worse from.
It won't be my problem.
As a wise guy from Alabama said, not your goats, not your rodeo.
Yeah. So I mean, they've never really been held accountable. They're not going to be held accountable for what they say. But I mean, the news has changed, right? I mean, it's not like what it was 50 years ago, where you really had you had the major networks and you had newspapers, and the news cycle, was not 24/7 because they weren't on the air 24/7. We didn't have cable news back then, and we didn't have the internet back then. Now stuff gets reported on a regular basis, and unfortunately, part of that is that there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation, a lot of stuff that's just completely false and wrong that's out there. So the media just becomes part of that narrative of they're just parroting whatever. I mean, look, I think at least the main the major networks, news media operations, they're struggling because of Joe Biden. Here they are that they helped make sure that Joe Biden was elected, right? They definitely whipped up the anti-Trump frenzy. There was already a high level of hatred for Trump anyway, but for some people, but they really whipped that in. They got their man. But now they're trying to figure out how they get rid of this guy.
And something? They got their man, but here's something. There were 16 Democrats running for president at the beginning of the show, so to speak. And then real fast, they started dropping like flies. The media had a hand in that. The media was pushing Joe Biden, even in the primaries. I mean, who's looking stupid? I mean, wouldn't Tulsi Gabbard be a much better president than Joe Biden if she were in the White House today?
And we've seen this going back just a few weeks where, Democrats are telling publications like Politico and stuff like that. There are a lot of whispers going on about, what are we going to do here? I mean, what do we do? What do we do in 2024? They're shockingly realizing that Joe Biden may be actually too old to do this job.
Well, I got some advice for the Democrats. It's an old Tammy Wynette song. Stand by your man. Stay with the guy that brought you to the dance. I know.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. I mean, if you abandon him and then try to turn to Harris, well, she, Miss Cackle there doesn't do anything for anybody.
Cackle Harris.
yeah, we should just call her Cackle Harris, right? VP Cackle Harris. Yeah, I like that. So it's just that's not working for the Democrats. And what did you do? You basically say, you tell Joe not to run again, and you tell Harris, don't try to run because we need someone different, because we've had 4 disastrous years, which is likely to be the case.
Yeah. And here's something, right? How do the Democrats run against this at the supermarket? What are they going to say? This Putin's fault? I mean, I've got tons of these things, and these are like a couple months old too. These aren't even like recently. This is like a couple months ago, and it's even worse now, probably.
Yeah, it's sporadic. I think it just depends where you are and what you're shopping for. But there's no doubt that the pandemic and then decisions made by the administration that exacerbate things create these shortages of certain things, where you're used to seeing freezers. Those kind of freezers would normally stay stocked full of goods. It's not happening anymore. You can go to a store and you're like, I can't find it. I mean, you mentioned at the beginning. I think you mentioned the baby formula shortage and things like that.
Yeah.
Part of that is the regulations. They clamp down on all these things, and they had to do the fly-in from infant formula from overseas that doesn't necessarily meet U.S. standards. So they had to lower the standards. There are a lot of problems with the way things are done in this country, and it's definitely been exacerbated. And Biden, he needs the Harry Truman model. The buck stops here, right? But the problem with Biden is that the buck stops over there and over there. It's Putin.
The buck stops with Donald Trump.
It's Donald Trump. It's everybody but Biden and the Democrats that's responsible for inflation, gas prices, food shortages, supply chain issues. I mean, he's been in there for over a year, almost a year and a half now, and the consumer sentiment indexes are at lows. People are very discouraged about what they see. November, the closer we get to November, the worse it looks for them. This decision on Roe v. Wade, in essence, really is not going to move the needle. The Democrats are hoping here, right, that they can take this issue and that they can make this something in November in the midterms. The problem is that for most people, this is not their core central issue. There are ardent pro-lifers, and there are ardent pro-choicers. And there's a lot of people in the middle who are like, I believe in one side or the other, but I'm not the guy who's going to go out there and be at the clinic on Saturday mornings protesting about abortions. Okay. I understand.
Saturday mornings, that's...
what they want is to know what's happening with gas prices, inflation, what is happening to their pocketbook, how much of their paycheck is being eroded, and those type of things. When they go to the store, in week one, if they go a week later, the stuff that they need, is it still going to be available, and will it cost the same as it did before? Because that's part of the problem is that the spiraling inflation is that you never know when you go to the store what's going on there. I was having a conversation with some of our missionaries this week. We were just talking a little bit about food prices, and a lot of them, chicken was a cheap alternative for them, right? Beef is expensive and it's always more expensive than chicken. But even for these young people who have a very limited budget they're allowed on, when chicken prices soar, that makes their lives a lot tougher because they get less for their money. And I mean, you want to talk about fixed income? Talk to a Latter-day Saint missionary.
And here's the thing. And I tell you, I was talking to somebody who goes, I may as well become a vegetarian because of how bad, how expensive meat and all that is. I go, vegetables aren't that much cheaper, but
Well,
uh,
I mean, I never go into a Whole Foods, for example, but I kind of wonder, Whole Foods we know has always been known for having, the whole paycheck jokes, more
mhm,
expensive, goods. Some of
yeah,
their stuff, I mean, I've had people bring me stuff from Whole Foods, like their tarts and other things. Just
they're
like
not that much better
some of
than
the stuff
say the
is just,
Giant.
it really tastes great, but I would never pay that kind of money for those
Yeah,
things. I'm,
and
I'm,
here's the
I'm Costcoized,
mhm.
where you get that. What's the apple pie at Costco? $5 or $6 or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
well, I tell you, they got a great deal of muffins right now. You get two 6 packs for like $3.99, $4.99, something like that. $6.99 maybe. But that's a really good deal for 12 muffins if you can actually eat those in a reasonable amount of time. The problem with us is you can't eat going through 12 muffins in, let's say, about a week or two. Well, that's kind of getting a
Well, I
little
mean,
ahead of
we used to go to Sam's Club and get the muffins because we always thought the muffins at Sam's Club were taste better.
Mhm.
And they used to be about $4.99 for a dozen, and I think they're probably up to $5 or $6. Probably up
Yeah.
another one or two since then. The thing, part of the problem though is just that those are huge muffins. A
Mhm.
lot of times I would just have to cut them in half and eat half at a
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. It's like those big giant food used to have those chocolate chip muffins. I used to back in my days. I used to love those. Those would be great with butter on them. And but those, yeah, I'd have to cut those into quarters. And nowadays it takes me about a week to finish a whole muffin. But I do
Yeah.
like that old Seinfeld episode where they were beheading the muffin, so to speak, and giving the stumps to the homeless and eating the crispy muffin cap. Uh, I will say the muffin cap is the best part of the muffin.
Yeah, everybody loves that, right? Everybody always has to take the muffin top off, right? Just get that
Yeah,
first, right?
yeah,
It's pretty funny how that goes. I will say, I mean, you usually go to the Wheaton Costco, right? That's your Costco
yeah.
go-to.
Because that's the closest one to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and mine is Gaithersburg, and I had to go get a couple things today, and it's already been showing in the Costco. I think when they did their earnings report of 2 3 weeks ago, they
Mhm.
had told Wall Street that their store count is up. Part of it, I mean, people are going there and buying gas to the Costco's that have gas in droves, and then they go shop. But neither the Wheaton nor the Gaithersburg store have gas. But I
Yeah.
go and I'm in there. I walk in that store today at like 2:30, 3 p.m. or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still insane.
Yeah. I know. It's like I got news for you, people.
This is inflation that
Yeah.
I think is responsible for this because you and I both know Costco is pretty reasonably priced, just like Sam's Club. I mean,
Yep.
and when
But
now
I'll tell
people
you this.
like, I got to buy in bulk,
Uh-huh.
but it is cheaper than going to Giant, Safeway, Harris Teeter, everybody else. So the store traffic. I mean, there's so many more people in there during the course of it.
Yes. I like to go there right when they open. Like I'm there about 9:30, and I'll wait 15 because they usually let you in before 10. And I'll wait. But
That
there'll
means
be like,
your store is nice. Ours is right on the dot, if not a minute.
really?
It takes, yeah,
Yeah,
and they
no,
got to
the
roll up the
Wheaton one
garage
does
door.
that. Yeah. And when I go to Goddard, I will go to the Costco's in Beltsville. They do have a gas station. But I tell you, the lines are crazy. It used to be
Although
I could go in the
I
middle
would,
of the
I don't,
day.
I think I tried to avoid getting gas at the Beltsville Costco because
That
it
is
is
the
not
worst Costco, also, by the
that
way.
one, and the one over kind of. I think it's Ellicott City. I guess it's the one they call it
Mhm.
anyway. The lines over there are crazy.
Is that the one by the
So
airport?
it's
Like
yeah,
it's
it's
by
in
Maryland Live.
that's by Maryland Live. They're pretty busy too, but this other one is off of 32 somewhere.
Oh wow, there's a Costco's off of 32.
Yeah,
It's good to
somewhere
know.
over in that vein because we have to go over to like Laurel, Columbia,
Hmm.
um, to
Oh,
go
probably
because
that's probably the one that Jeff uses, the one by Jeff's house.
yeah. So, but the gas lines over there are insane most of the time.
Yeah.
So,
I tell you the
I love getting Costco gas, but if I'm gonna get it so far, Frederick Station, at least before the gas prices $5 a gallon, was reasonable.
Yeah, I tell you, look, the first Costco in the Melbourne area in Brevard County is set to open this fall. It's going to be a good day. You know, it's right off the 95 exit. Easy in, easy out. I think they're even going to have a gas station there. But I tell you, one thing I do want to tell people who do like to go to Costco, just stop. Don't go to Costco. Support your local business. Go to the Safeway. Go to the Giant. Go to Whole Foods. Go to Wegmans. Because I like going to Costco's. I don't want to see 80 million people at the Costco's. Frankly, not to be selfish, but do you really have to go to Costco's every single day? The
Well,
idea of buying in bulk is.
I don't know how the average person who doesn't have access to a Costco or a Sam's Club because it's too far away, kind of a thing like that, and because you have to buy so much stuff, you couldn't lug it home. They lack transportation. Like if they're on public transportation, it's really hard to haul a Costco haul back
Yeah,
on.
I mean, the Democrats want you to take the bus everywhere, so you can't take. You can't.
We went to Safeway the other day because Young needed a few ingredients for some stuff we were working on for the church thing. But she just looked at me in horror about the prices, and I said, "Well, He says we could go to Lidl. It's a little bit out of our way back going back home. We were in Olney because I wanted some chocolate almond milk from either Lidl or Aldi. It didn't really matter." And she's like, "Fine," And she gets kind of the store brand or off brand thing from Lidl for the thing she was going to get at Safeway for less than half the price, and it makes her feel better because she's just like, I can't pay this. Even if our church is paying for those ingredients, she goes, I cannot do this in good conscience. It just drives me
Young's
crazy.
a good steward of other people's money. That's what it is.
She is. She's very good. But you get this sticker shock. You're just like when you're used to shopping at the Costco's, Lidl's, Aldi's, whatever, and then you walk into a Safeway or Giant for something, and you're like, whoa, I mean, she sent me to Giant for something like, I got to have this now, and you can go to a Giant at 6 o'clock in the morning. You can't go to a Lidl or Aldi at that time because they won't open till like 8. So if you do it, you got to just go and do it. You pay a premium for that, and they're necessary because you have to have these grocery stores that stock in smaller quantities and do these things. But boy, I tell you, I look at a lot of people and I'm like, boy, if you only lived closer to a Costco or Sam's, you could probably figure out a way to.
All right, has Young seen the price of sugar at Safeway? A 4-pound bag of sugar is almost like $5. It's almost $5 for a 4-pound bag of sugar. I don't mean to laugh. It's a serious thing. That's a very expensive thing. But honest to God, over $1 a pound. They used to come in 5-pound bags. I might be remembering wrong, but sugar used to come in 5-pound bags. Now it's 4-pound bags. And it's
inflation.
I remember when it used to be when sugar you could buy a bag of sugar, a 5-pound bag of sugar for about 50 cents.
Right. Yeah, it was really cheap.
And it was not that long ago either. It was only about 20 years ago,
I think if you could get a coupon or something like that, you get it down to like 20 cents.
Yeah, yes.
It's insane.
And I remember when President Trump, those evil, horrible days when President Trump was president, I could find sugar for 88 cents a pound on sale, 88 cents for a 4-pound bag. Usually around between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and around Easter time, I could find it for 88 cents.
I don't know about you, Dwight, but I feel like kind of like my parents must have felt, when I was growing up, when they tell me these stories about penny candy and all this stuff, now I feel that way about like gasoline. I think about 50 years ago, gasoline was maybe 19 cents a gallon or something like that.
Well, let me tell you something. When I was working for you in 1996, gas was below $1.
Yeah.
Gas was below $1 because I remember in '98 when I was driving to upstate New York for the Terry campaign, I was filling up over. Oh, where was I? I was filling up off of Route 15 for about 77 cents, 88 cents, stuff like that. And then that July of '98 is when Paris Glendening and the Democrats raised the Maryland gas tax because Marylanders are used to paying more than a dollar for gas anyways, is what Paris Glendenning's logic was. And he raised the gas tax, so gas became like $1.05, $1.05, $1.10, $1.15.
What we wouldn't do
Yeah.
for that, but I think right at that time, that 98, 99 period, I think
Yeah.
we had like the oil crash. I think oil got down to like $10 a barrel, which then
Yes.
put the price at less than $1. Now, I have a vision in my head of the because I live right close to Aspen Hill before in Silver Spring, but really right by
Mhm.
Aspen. So we had several gas stations there.
Yeah, there was
nearby.
that Free State
Depot.
station by the stained glass pub that was
Right.
really, now it's a Shell, and it's funny, a few weeks ago, when I was driving to the stained glass pub, the price of gas was 5 something, but the dollar side must have been broken because it said 9 cents. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fill up everything and I'm gonna bring empty jugs to fill up as much as I can. But it was broken. If you look on it, it's $5.19 a gallon or something like that.
Well, at least the gas prices have trickled down a little bit last few days.
Let's see. I'll tell you exactly what the daily average is. Our county, we're still at $5.02, and the state average is $4.88. It's funny, people are going to say, "Oh, that's a good price," considering it was $5.20 last week. But they're going to go up. They're not going to stay down. They're going to go up again.
Well, look, look, you and I and anybody else out there that listens to it now or later in the state of Maryland, you better fill up and top off your tank by June 30th because we're going to get that tax increase on July 1st.
That's right, everyone. Fill up this weekend. And again, but on the 30th, because July 1,
yeah,
we'll be back to $5 gas for the state average at that point.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it supposed to go up 7 cents? I think.
Yeah, 7 cents. And I know they all seem to think 7 cents is not a lot of money, but it's like as Robin Ficker says, 2 cents off every dollar in sales tax. That adds up pretty fast,
Yeah, look, I mean, for me, for the amount of driving my wife, Young, and I do, I mean, we're not talking about a lot of money. I bet you that increase in the gas tax will cost us $50 to $75 a year, but it's $50 to $75 a year that I don't have to do something else with. If I don't replace the income I'm going to lose shortly, that's big money, right? I mean, it's every penny is going to count for me going forward. So it's like, this is, hey, somebody help me out here. But but Biden wants to suspend the federal gas tax. It's just like Hogan and these guys are the Democrats when they suspend the state gas. Those are drops in the bucket for people when you're doing those.
And when gas is going to be $5.23, over $5.20, 23 cents. Dropping the sales tax by 23 cents, taking it from $5.23 to $5 or $5.20 to $4.98. It does not. I mean, honestly, it does. I know they say, "Oh, it adds up," but got news for you. It doesn't. It's still
the one place I think it has a bigger impact in my mind is, if you're suspending the tax on the diesel gas.
Yeah,
because most of the fleets that these guys have, whether or not it's a garbage truck or I mean they use a lot of gas and they don't get great mileage, right? So their fuel bills are high. I mean, you can see the message that we got from David about his fuel bill. That would at least help out some of these guys that are that have these high fuel diesel bills, at least lower them. I mean, if you're driving a ton, it actually has some impact. Not huge, but it has some impact. But it's wrong prescription.
Yeah. But here's the thing: we're also driving a lot less. Like, I'm not driving as much, and I don't know what is going on the Beltway. People drive way too damn slow in the left lane. They drive too slow in the right lane. I can almost forgive them, and they're not even old people. I want to say, people are bought into that myth that if you drive at 55, the slower you drive, the less gas you're going to burn. That's not true. That is not true. And I know Joe Biden and all the Democrats want us to buy electric cars, but the much touted the Toyota BZ4X, the wheels are falling off on the.
Isn't that a great article? Isn't that funny?
The wheels are falling off. It's like, what did they do? They hired the Ford Explorer engineer to design this car. At least they don't go flippity flip like the Ford Explorers used to. Although that was all the Firestone tire. It was Firestone tires, not Ford. It wasn't a design flaw in the Ford.
Yeah.
It was the Firestone tires. But no, but I mean, seriously, Chevrolet. I took my car in for an oil change a couple weeks ago, and there's a Chevy Bolt EUV, 27,000 or something like that, or 27, maybe 27 or 37,000, something like that. I forget what exactly it was. And I go, hey, can we take this for a test? Oh, we're not allowed to sell any of these because they're on recall right now. I'm like, really?
Well, I mean, it's like my son Steven. I mean, he has one of my old Lexuses, and which he drives, and he loves that car. Obviously, it fits him. It fits his style. But his boss has a Tesla S, I think, which is the most expensive Tesla they were selling for for the car type. I think it's 130,000. And he said, he rode with his boss, and he said, so he's riding in the passenger side, and he's talking to me one day. He says, he says the old Lexus, is built better, has a better fit. He says, I could hear the wind whistling through the door frame in that Tesla, and so I was like, yeah, the other part of it is that virtually, I think all the Lexuses we've owned, which we've bought used, have all been made in Japan, and they're not made in America. And we know how scrupulous the Japanese are. So yay to my half heritage.
I mean, we saw that movie Gung Ho back in the 90s about the Japanese buying a Detroit plant. Then they're not like but I think and these electric cars. I mean, by the Hummer I pre-ordered, they raised the price on it. It's not what it was. It's now it was like around 70 something, and now it's up to 84. I'm like, no, I think I'm not gonna pay 84. That's like because 84,000 is what I paid for a down payment on a house I bought many years ago, right?
Yeah,
I'm not going to pay a down payment on a house.
That's the other is that I think the price of the EVs is going faster than the price of the combustion engine cars, because the materials used for the EVs, the cost of their materials is skyrocketing.
Yep.
So they're passing that on. So people like you that are waiting for an EV, all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, I mean, because Tesla raised their prices by up to $6,000 per vehicle because their cost pressures.
What I do here is relatively affordable EV. It is the BMW i4, and this is it right here. And it's 55,000, and then we get a tax credit of $7,500. And it's a BMW. I haven't seen these in person yet, but it looks like it's about the size of a 5 Series. And look, you get an M badge. Shout out to Sparkplug and his M badge fans. An i4 M50 for $65,000, which is still a lot less. I mean, and this has got, and since it's a EV, it's not going to be taking. Maybe BMW would probably figure out a way. It takes premium electricity, so you got to have special electricity to run these things. Because BMW takes the highest octane gas there is. But I mean,
so my son Steven pointed me to the what is it called? The Lexus RZ 450e. It's not out yet.
Yeah, Lexus is going to be all electric.
Right. So I guess I don't know. Is this car like the RX 350 that my wife has?
Yeah. Let me do some checking. Future.
It's a crossover, so it's probably something.
Yeah. Well, there's also a sedan. Well, it looks like a crossover. This is what it is here. I'll show you.
Yeah.
This is the
Now I would,
RZ 450E.
yeah. So I'd be willing to buy one of those if I could get, if I had to fork over very little cash after selling my 450 or my
By the way,
350.
Don, this thing is built on the same platform as the BZ8. The same.
Well,
So,
they're gonna it may take a while before the RZ comes out then until they fix the other problem.
but I will tell you this. Toyota will fix that problem with
Oh yeah.
they'll fix this problem, and the next model year of the BZs will be just fine. I think we won't have these same issues. Unlike some manufacturers where they just keep those problems keep coming and coming up. Like BMW has a fire hazard problem in one of their cars. I joke how BMW must have hired the Ford Pinto engineer to design their. I want to say it might be a hybrid BMW that's catching on fire.
Was it the Pinto that I just remember some car when I was a lot younger, when I was still young enough and I was living with my parents, that my neighbor had their son-in-law had a car, and they would, after they drove it around a while, they would have to lift the hood up to let it cool off.
Oh, that's the Chevy Vega, I believe.
The Vega, that's it. That is exactly it. Yeah, okay.
That was the Chevy Vega.
Yeah.
It also would rust in the showroom too.
Good memory, Dwight.
This is your Ford Pinto. If you recall, it was also the car of choice for Kate Jackson on Charlie's Angels. She had one of these. Actually, she had an orange one just like this.
How about a Gremlin?
Oh yeah, yeah. I know. Gremlins,
Great AMC. How many different models did AMC put out anyway?
Well, you had the AMC Ambassador, which was their big car. Then you had their muscle car, which was the Javelin, which, by the way, Joe Biden wants to send those to. He wants to send those to Ukraine. He tried to get a hold of George Romney and was wondering why. And this is the Javelin right here, beautiful car. But this is their full line. This is the 78 model here. But they had the Matador, which is their station wagon, the Matador sedan. And then
I'm looking at this. The one I couldn't remember was the Pacer.
Yeah, the Pacer. That's the big. Then they made it even a larger Pacer.
It was such a weird car with that window in the back.
Yeah. It was like a greenhouse.
Yeah.
And it was a very wide car. I remember the commercials where they would do where the commercials would have them doing preparing a submarine sandwich in a back of a Pacer.
I seem to vaguely recall that.
Yeah, I bet I can find it on the interwebs.
Hey, it's almost 8 o'clock. We're having so much fun.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we didn't even get to talk about superlative stuff like gardening and but we got the little AMC classic cars.
No, you never know where we're going to go.
Exactly. Okay, Don, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. So Pixar from Disney came out, I guess, a week ago with Lightyear, which is supposed to be about Buzz Lightyear. And who was it? Chris Evans, who played Captain America, was the voice, not Tim Allen, because I guess it's an earlier version of Buzz. It was banned in about 14 countries, Muslim countries, because of a gay. There was even a theater in Oklahoma that said they would try to fast forward the movie past that. I think the expectations from the movie crowd was that it was going to, gross well over $100 million in its opening weekend, and it hit around 50. I call it woke Lightyear because of what they're doing there, but I hope it does kind of just stumble, fall, and fail, and doesn't make back the money that they thought it would. I mean, this is another case of Disney trying to kowtow to all this leftist, all these culture, people. You've got to be inclusive of all this stuff like this. It's like, why does a gay kiss need to be in an animated film about Buzz Lightyear? This is beyond me. And
yes,
this is it's just ridiculous. I really hate that. I will say I did watch Doctor Strange and the multiverse thing on Disney Plus the other day, and
Mhm.
I almost I almost got to a point where I thought I was going to have to turn it off. There was that one point about the two moms, but it was then and it was gone, and I'm like, okay, it never came back, and I'm like, okay, I can deal with that.
Mhm.
I'll live with that because it wasn't super overt. There was like no gay kiss or whatever. But there's something about Hollywood. They think they have to put all this stuff in there, and there are a lot of people who are very traditional values people who really don't want to do that. But
Yeah.
we're turning around saying like, what choices are we having here? I've got grandkids. I want to be able to have them watch good, wholesome stuff. But I'm like, every time I turn, and now we have to kind of analyze everything for that.
Yeah, don't let them watch Young Justice on HBO Max. Definitely don't let them watch that.
And
It's
then
just way, way bad. It's just gotten bad. It's gotten really bad. But yeah,
what's that about? Oh, is that a
it's
Justice League thing?
yeah, but it's basically the justice. It's basically the side. It's basically. I guess they didn't have the rights to Teen Titans. That's why they called it Young Justice. It was the founding members of the Teen Titans: Kid Flash, Robin, and Speedy. And well, not Speedy. I'm sorry. Kid Flash, Aqualad, and Robin. And then their first mission, they were rescuing Superboy because he's a clone in a lab. But comic books also had Wonder Girl, which, by the way, they used to refer to as in the 1960s Teen Titans cartoon. They refer to Wonder Girl as Wonder Doll, Wonder Chick, Wonder Gal. I'm like, wow, they would be canceled today. But yeah, those were the founding members of the Teen Titans, and they added Young Justice and Artemis Croc instead in place of Speedy because Speedy had been accepted into the Justice League and they weren't.
Yeah, if you ever need to know anything about this stuff, just go to Dwight.
I've
I
got.
will say though that I did watch Obi-Wan, and I actually like that one.
Mhm.
Princess Leia kind of won my heart in that little 6 episode series.
Oh, is
So
she in there?
yeah, it's Princess Leia as a little girl.
Huh. Do you have
So
Anakin in there too?
yes, Anakin is in there, because of becoming Darth.
Uh-huh.
So
Wow.
so it was actually pretty good there overall. The Young didn't like and I agree though they have the one gal they put in there, lead actresses, and she just has no skill. But you can kind of get past
Mhm.
that and say, the other stuff is kind of interesting, and we'll see where they go with that. I don't know if it was as popular as The Mandalorian when The Mandalorian first started, but this one,
Mhm.
because this one had a lot of there was just a lot of interesting things going on in there. So I kind of like that. And you have to, every time Disney, as they're extending that franchise, that whole Star
Mhm.
Wars franchise, you're really not sure how that's going to go. So, Boba Fett, I didn't think was all that great. Mandalorian was good. Obi-Wan gets
Mhm.
some praise from me. So, but
Yeah, and they're
they only do 6 episodes. So you watch 6 episodes and then you're like, you got to wait like a year for the next one. So
I hate that. It's just laziness among the parts of Hollywood. Okay, as I said in the old days, Hazel would do 32 episodes a season. Okay, that was a long time. But Everybody Loves Raymond, they did 24, 26 episodes a season, right? And now it's like, oh, 23. Oh, you're doing 23 episodes, 23 whole episodes. That's not even there. That's less than half of the year. That is
well, the thing,
less.
yeah, right. The actors and actresses are making plenty of money. They're making as much, if not more, money for doing fewer
Yeah.
episodes now, right? They're getting paid much more on a per episode basis. But it's hard to me. It's hard to keep up momentum if you do 6 episodes
Oh yeah.
and then you don't, and then you're only doing them every year because then you got to go back and and do this and
You
this.
got to rewatch the first six, because you forget about what. Yes, because everything's now become serialized. They don't have. They have even sitcoms are now quasi serialized. They build on stuff that's happened, which they used to never really do that. I mean, I know some people say, "Well, I Love Lucy did that." I go, they only referred to stuff like the crazy stuff when she went to Hollywood and when she to Europe and so on, would get in trouble and stuff like that. But it wouldn't be really. You could watch an episode without knowing what happened. Uh,
That's
but
right.
nowadays it seems like it's like you can't if you're like Superman and Lois, really good show on the CW right now. Um, if you watch it in the middle, you kind of would be a little lost if you haven't been watching since the beginning of the season. The Flash is the same way, and it's like, why don't you do episode to episode? You could have some continuity arcs, but I mean, you shouldn't like make it like a soap opera where if you miss a day, you're kind of lost in what's going on. Yeah, and they don't. I mean, and here's the thing: daytime television, they never take time off except Christmas Day. They do new episodes every single day, and they seem to be able to do that. Episode new daytime, like Young and the Restless and As the World Turns, they're like at season a million or something like that. And they've been doing new episodes every day of the year except 365 days a year. Well, not quite 365, but close to that.
All right,
And that's
I was going to say one more quick thing just for you. Your beloved Orioles. I'm not sure why you like the Orioles so much, but they're 32.
They're almost.
Look, they've won 45% of their games. I mean, so
they might be at 500 by the All-Star break.
I mean, it's always a possibility. I haven't looked at their schedule, but I mean, it's like that's like they could win like over 70 games, which would be fabulous for them. I mean, they probably will win a lot more games than the Nationals. So, even with Peter Los's terrible management of the team, they actually may start turning the corner if he doesn't.
It'd be great if Cal Ripken would buy the team. If Cal Ripken Jr. were to buy the team, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if Cal would want to do that. I mean, owning a team is great, but also a major headache. And the Angelos family is already having a feud anyway, right?
Oh, really? Yes. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
The sons they've gone to court or something. So there's a lot of accusations flying about. So yeah, we have some terrible sports ownership in this area, whether or not it's the Angeloses or Dan Snyder, and not going well.
Dan Snyder was okay when he was a Republican, but now that he's like gone all squishy and all that, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
you're not any better than Dr. Evil Jeff Bezos,
And I will say, shout out to Kelly Schultz. I mean, I went to an event, and me. I mean, it's like I'm basically not going to anything these days for the most part. And I did this as a favor to a good friend of ours who needed bodies for the tickets she bought, and and managed to get Young out there of all things. This never happens.
Oh wow, she didn't even come out for ice cream for my event.
She never goes out for any of this, but she felt that she owed this to Martha. And I will say I think Kelly, from the time when I first went to that first event at Koch's Penthouse to now, she really improved her pitch a lot. And Mike Higgs was great because he just talked about what a nutcase Dan Cox was in introducing Kelly.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dan Cox, there is no way he can win this primary. A vote for Dan Cox is a vote for the Democrats, frankly. Just remember that, everyone. The vote for Dan Cox is a vote for a Democrat because there is no way he can win come November. And my final thoughts.
What was that thing you posted today on Signal? They were having some car rally at Montgomery Mall?
Yes, Sunday, yeah. They're not calling it a train. They should call it a Cox train, but they're not. They're calling it a car rally. They're going to drive around, instead of knocking on doors or doing stuff that actually could probably get them votes. But I'm all for it. You want to do a car rally? Do the car rally. You guys do that. Let the Kelly people go knock on doors and get the votes coming in. But it's one of those things. Our club, the Republican club, has endorsed Kelly Schultz for governor, and they've endorsed what do you call it? They've endorsed Jim Schacht for attorney general. and Barry Glassman for comptroller. Jim's got a primary against another, as president, a very bad person. Who, if he wins the nomination, he will drag down all the other Republicans. And then we've also endorsed Chris Chafee for U.S. Senate. And it'll be up on the website probably tomorrow, all of our endorsed candidates. So tomorrow afternoon, go to mocogopclub.com and you'll find all you need to know, all the candidates that we are supporting for office in Montgomery County and the state of Maryland. And any other thoughts, Don?
That's it. Your turn, Dwight.
Okay, my final thoughts. A couple of things. Another good week for our campaigning. I had a great coffee with Dwight this morning I was over at the Tasty Diner in downtown Silver Spring. And you know you're in enemy territory in downtown Silver Spring, right? It's almost as bad as last week when I was at the Tasty Diner in downtown Bethesda, right?
Is that District 20 still down there?
Yeah, that's still District 20. But what's funny is I like to sit at the bar and I kind of start a conversation with the people next to me and so on. And we get to a conversation. I tell you, the biggest concern for people is inflation, high price of gas, and public safety. Law and order. That's what everyone's talking about that. The Democrats have yet to address their plan for combating the 88% homicide rate in Montgomery County or the 72% carjacking rate in Montgomery County that has gone up. They don't want to talk about that. This is like they want to talk about Build Back Better. And I had a Democrat tell me the Democrats lowered the deficit. Yeah, they only lowered the deficit because they couldn't get Build Back Better passed. Build Back Better would have just added more to the deficit, frankly. And that is something that really needs to be tackled. What do you call? We need to have that set up. People need to have a plan. I mean, my plan is I want to put a moratorium on property tax increases for the next 10 years. I would like to cut salaries of councilmen. I think they're being paid too much money. And I know they say the county charter says they're not allowed to do a job, and I'm thinking, and there is no possible way to ever change the county charter. I'm sorry, let's change the county charter so you can go out and have a second job and be a public servant. It's called public servant, not a public grifter that's going to line his pockets with money. It's a public servant. I feel like telling these people, are you a public servant or a public grifter?
It's a pretty good gig.
It is. It is a good gig, but I mean, honestly, if you see the way I look at it, if you're public office, you're serving the people. It takes a special kind. You don't go into politics to get rich, frankly. You go into politics so you care about people. You want to better people's lives, and that's why a lot of Republicans go into politics. They don't do it to get rich. If you notice, Joe Biden got to be very wealthy in the United States Senate and as vice president. How do you get that on a mere public servant salary? And it's really bad when our public servant. I mean, there was a time where you could tell kids, "Hey, grow up to be like the president." Now you can't even do that. Yeah, you really want somebody to grow up to be a senile buffoon who can't ride a bicycle? It's really bad. This guy is a laughing stock. He's an embarrassment. Joe Biden is just a horrible, horrible president. I mean, this guy makes Jimmy Carter not look that bad. That is how bad this guy is. I mean, maybe the Democrats will run Jimmy Carter in 2024. Inflation was not 8.6% under my days. It was only 7. I don't even know what inflation rate was, but it was bad under the Carter years. If you remember, Carter years, we had a lot of problems. A lot of things were going wrong. A lot of things. Foreign policy. This is like a repeat, But and my other final thought is next week I've got another Pizza with Dwight. It is most likely going to be. I'm trying to find a new pizza place, but Most likely it's going to be Mama Lucia's in Falls Grove. We're going to be back at Mama Lucia's Falls Grove, and we'll have pizza with Dwight there.
Sounds good.
So yeah, just go to my website. You'll see my newsletter probably tomorrow or Monday with details on it. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
And early voting starts in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So remember, vote early and then cover the polls on election day for Kelly Schultz. Take care, everyone. Good night.